I think I finally owe you my review of the Sennheiser 58X because I don't think my opinion is gonna change at this point anymore. Even though I have to say this is not how I remember the 660S to sound like, because there are actually people even that say that this is the exact same driver, which we by now know it's not, since people took it apart. It's not the exact same driver, very similar one, but not the same. And most people though agree that it is 95%, 99% on 660S, which with the price difference still makes it an easy recommendation. I mean, just think about it. In the US, the 660S is $500, where this one from Massdrop is $150. And even in Germany, where the price difference is way smaller, the 660S is still $420, and this one with import $180. But I want to let you know the differences, at least the way I see them and the way I remember them, because I don't know, I felt different about the 660S, and obviously there are some compromises due to the Massdrop design and so on, but yeah, we'll see. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Now, headphone is in the box and the cable. That was pretty much already. It was a pretty minimal packaging, but I mean, that's good because all we want is that, even though this is not what I wanted. Because the cable, I mean, I don't like it at all. First of all, it splits into two pieces way too early, and therefore it's just too short, and I think it's annoying. But the cable in general is just too short with 1.8 meters. This is more like for mobile use, but I will never use an open back outside. I mean, many people like the fact that you can easily drive it with a phone or so, but this is already where it starts. This I have to power just as much as my LCD2C, which kind of makes no sense. And this is also what I remember to be different from the 660S. The 660S were definitely noticeably easier to drive compared to my 660S that I had. So that's already where my confusion started, but there is a lot more when it comes to the sound. But let's actually get to the design build quality. And yeah, obviously we have to get into the fact that this is not kind of glossy plastic, and this is, and it looks a little bit odd clashing with that, but I don't really have an issue with that. I mean, the lacquer here isn't perfectly done, and the build quality definitely isn't amazing. I mean, for 150, I can let it slide because it feels okay, but I heard a lot of people having issues with kind of these things breaking and so on. And it definitely doesn't have a premium feel at all. And I've seen headphones, cheaper ones, that feel a little bit better put together. But I mean, the thing is still here. The headband is good. It feels, yeah, clamping force there, but I'm going to get into that. We have also the two splits where the 600s have four, which I kind of prefer. And also everyone seems to say that this is the exact same ear pad like on the 650 or 600. I don't get that. My 600s were never that stiff. They were very more comfortable. I mean, size-wise, they seem very, very similar. And even the 650 for me seemed different. Obviously, then the grill looks a little bit odd. I'm gonna go into the modding a little bit later on, but not that much since I didn't get the time to do it yet. But this is pretty much what it is. We have a nice, very stiff change of the headband, which I like. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Your ear definitely shouldn't touch because this is deep enough and it's big enough because it's not kind of biodynamic, stupid like round. Makes no sense. This is more like what the ear actually looks like. So let's put them on. And let me tell you that even though I have these for like, I don't know, 2-3 months by now, I still don't really like the comfort that much. My 600s for some reason feel way softer, and it's not because they wore in, because I didn't actually use my 600s that much as a whole. So even from the beginning, those sounded more comfortable. I mean, yes, obviously there are tricks to kind of bend it outwards, loosen it up a little bit, but I mean, I don't really have an issue with the clamping force. It's okay. I think the pads are less kind of flexible, less kind of forgiving, or kind of smoothing out. My 660 my 600s do this better. The 600s though didn't really do it. I mean, in general, it looks and feels like a slightly cheaper 660S, which is fine. And what I have to say though is that the fit is great. I mean, they sit very, very snug, and they are super lightweight, which is a big thing. But like I said, the cable, I mean, that's just a mess. I will try to find a better solution for me that works, because this cable just for me is too short. So is there anything else to say about the comfort? I mean, obviously no isolation since it's open back. Leakage is there. But I mean, fit is great. Comfort, I mean, it's not uncomfortable, but it's not something super comfortable. I can wear them long and longer now because they sit so well. You have enough space, nothing touches my ear. But I mean, it's not quite my perfect taste. Maybe if those pads will be softer, it doesn't matter. Now, about powering, I already talked about it. I don't know why I have to power these just as much as my LCD2C. I don't get it. It should be way less. The 660, I had a difference of like 10 when I used it in the volume mixer. I don't know. This is already where my confusion starts, but let's actually get into the sound. I see a quite big difference. I mean, not so much in terms of soundstage, even though also there, because this soundstage is very, very small and claustrophobic. But it still somehow manages to feel very, very open and very airy. And this is what makes it really great, especially since the imaging. I mean, if you want to play games with these, this is kind of your best choice with a cheap entry. I mean, there are so many people that always ask me which headset should I get if I want to really game competitive for a price of around this much. And I would like to tell them this one, but most people want a microphone. But I mean, that's where the compromise starts. I would say, go for something like this and just buy an external microphone. I mean, you will get the best of both worlds and make no compromise, because no headset nearly at that price will get you anywhere close to that. That's just what it is. But when it comes to the sound checks, and the difference is how I remember it between the 660S and this one is that the 660S didn't sound that kind of intimate. It felt a little bit wider, because this one feels maybe in some way smaller than my 600s, which is weird. I mean, but that also has to do with the general soundstage, or I mean signature, because this one feels not nearly as bright. Actually, the total opposite. It feels way darker than the 660S ever did. The 660S weren't super bright or anything like that, but these kind of have a tendency to sound like the LCD2C, quite dark, which is not a bad thing, but I did not remember that this way on the 660S. And I'm not gonna go too much into the differences. If you want to know how they sound, just watch my 660S review and then just think about them feeling a little bit more narrow, feeling a little bit darker, with the bass a little bit more emphasized, but not a lot. Mids are still quite nicely pushed forward a little bit. The highs are still not super bright, but nice in detail. The bass is very responsive. I like how deep it plays. Bass response is great and everything, but I don't want to get into that. So there is, let's actually talk a little bit about the mod. There is this one mod that seems to be pretty much the best one that I've seen in terms of measurements, but also the way that the guy described it. I just didn't get the time. So all you have to do is take that out. Then there is this foam. Take it out, but then the driver is exposed from the back. What you should do now is the following. You should use double-sided tape, double-sided tape, and then use some different sorts of foam or filters to kind of protect it, but give you also still the protection, the filter, because the guy had a brand of felt or foam that I couldn't find. I have to try that, maybe if I can maybe get it quite cheap, because I don't want to get it from the US, but that seemed to have made the best impact, because it got the sound a little bit brighter again, pushed the highs, I think, as far as I remember. The bass got a little bit more neutral, because this has a little bit more bass than the 660S, and that also maybe has to do with the sound set, because it should actually open up. You can use different kind of foams. You could use the actual real one if you want to cut it out, but I don't know, it's the thing. So let's actually boil it down already. I still think it sounds great, but in my opinion, in my memory, it just sounds a little bit different than the 660S did. But I mean, also you pay way less. Even though I have to say, if I would have the choice, 660S or these with the same price, I would obviously always go for the 660S, because for me, the difference is just way bigger, like 5 or 10%, just because the build quality feels cheaper. They cheaped out on the cable. You don't get the second cable like you did on the 660S, the balanced one. The finish looks a little bit different. They feel a little bit cheaper, but general comfort is the same. Yeah. And the sound, like I said, it felt to me a little bit brighter, a little bit more wide, slightly. Not really open, because this is what they do great with. Amazing, freaking amazing for gaming, imaging and everything else. Music, I still like that the vocals are pushed in a little bit. And it actually, from all the headphones that I have here right now, sounds the most like an LCD2C. I mean, the most. I'm not saying that it sounds really like it. There is still a significant differences. The LCD2C still has way more mids. It's still way darker and just a completely different thing, but it also costs way more. So we don't have to compare them too much about that. But otherwise, I don't really know. It does not nearly sound like my 600s. My HD600s, I mean, I don't like them at all anymore by now. I mean, personal preferences change. But when I reviewed them back then, I loved them. But by now, I feel the bass is missing. I feel the highs are just oddly annoying. And yeah, I know is it SolarWorks or SonarWorks, where they kind of make it more neutral and so on, but this definitely doesn't sound nearly as neutral as some headphones out there. It actually sounds quite sounded by now. It's super nice and detailed. I still like the sound because it is, after all, not trying, at least not this one compared to the 660S, to be super neutral and very accurate and just representing what it is. It actually adds a little bit of an own personal touch, making it a little bit more intimate. And it sounds just very, very pleasant. I have to say that. So I absolutely still can easily recommend them. And I bought them for myself, and it's not like I regret them at all. I like him still a whole lot of a ton. Makes no sense. The cable I will have to replace, that's the only thing, but then I'm fine. Because especially for podcasts, I prefer something open back, and then I would use these. And obviously for music still. For gaming, amazing of a choice. You won't nearly get anywhere at this price point in terms of imaging and so on. And I mean, the biggest consensus for me is I did not remember the 660S to sound like that. That's for me the most confusing thing, along with the part that I have to drive them way more, which I don't think they are broken, because therefore they sound still too much like the 660S, but not quite. And I think taking out the foam, which should brighten up and so on, should get me actually way closer. So maybe for some reason I perceive this 5% difference, or this small difference between those two, way bigger. I mean, if I would have maybe both side by side, I would think different, but that's the way I think right now. And like I said, I had long enough time to think about it, and my opinion won't change. So that's that. Easy recommendation still, for this price, killer. Not so much in terms of build quality, but yeah, bye.